not encouraging or advising anyone to modify their firearms. This is not a tutorial. This is for entertainment purposes only. Well, we got another one. This time I ported my second favorite striker-fired pistol right after my CZ P10F, which I already ported. This is the Smith and Wesson M&P 2.0 5-inch in 50 Shades of Peanut Butter. I've posted a video about the optics cut I got done by C&H Precision, and a video about tuning pistol recoil springs, which featured this gun. I will link to those videos and my other porting videos in the description. I've made enough videos about porting pistols at this point, I just put them into a playlist. You may be asking yourself, geez, dude, you just gonna port all your pistols? And the answer is, yeah, pretty much. If I don't run a suppressor on it or already have a threaded barrel and a compensator, then it's gonna get ported because I love doing these porting jobs. They're super fun for me, and the performance gains have been fantastic. Similar to my prior porting videos, I will briefly touch on design and machining considerations. I will quantify the change in performance with a muzzle flip angle comparison, then give some of my thoughts on how it felt to shoot before and after porting. Timestamps will be provided in the description so you can skip around as you please. The Smith & Wesson Performance Center pistols with factory porting were the inspiration for this design. My slots are similar in size and shape, but I put them in a narrower V, as I am not worried about fouling up my front sight and I want the most muzzle flip reduction, so I kept them as vertical as possible. I'm going to be porting an M&P competitor for my buddy soon. I was working on that design in tandem with this one, so that kind of inspired the slide milling design. I'll be posting a video on that porting job soon. My past porting jobs have also helped inform, port size, arrangement, and targeted total cross-sectional area based on barrel length. I really enjoy 3D modeling, so I have been creating more detailed models of my pistol barrels and slides to help dial in my port design. It really helps with fine-tuning the look, position, and dimensions prior to machining. I can also easily create a really nice drawing from the model to reference during machining. You gotta have a good drawing. I know I wanted some longitudinal slots in a narrow V configuration. I modeled a few different designs first, but settled on a slot of 3/32 inch diameter on either side and sized the length of the slot so that two of them together would give me my target cross-sectional area for barrels longer than 4 inches. After that, I played around with the cuts in the slide until I was happy. I pretty much copied the factory top slide cuts in the M&P competitor, but just shorter because I think they look dope. I was a bit limited on slide slot size and overall width, as the front of the slide has a lot of extra material close in around the barrel in its extended snout that accommodates the 5-inch barrel. To get the ports pointing out of the slots the way I wanted, I put them at a 15-degree angle off the vertical and then offset them outwards from the center axis of the bore by 60,000ths of an inch. First, I needed to machine the front sight so I could sneak my ports and the slide cuts closer to the muzzle. Then I profiled the front edge of it with a 60-degree end mill because I thought it was ugly as shit. Now I think it looks a lot better. There was nothing different about the slide machining process that I haven't already covered in past videos, but the V configuration barrel slots were offset from the bore axis and longitudinal, which I hadn't done before. Once I set my vise angle and zeroed my y-axis over the center axis of the barrel using a tight tolerance bore rod, I dialed in my 60,000ths offset and zeroed my y-axis again, then locked it in place. I then zeroed my x-axis off the muzzle like normal, and I was ready to machine the slots. Since I was approaching the barrel at an oblique angle as I wasn't centered over the bore axis, I couldn't really start the slots by drilling holes. Even with a center drill, it would have been hard. I very carefully plunged my end mill into the barrel, being careful not to deflect it off the curvature of the barrel as I was starting the holes. I then started to machine the slots, starting from the hole I just made, and did it in a couple of passes to be easier on the fragile, small diameter end mill. Before I refinish anything, I wanted to point out a couple of oopsies I made. No one's perfect. I'm not an expert nor a professional machinist. Stuff like this is going to happen if I do these projects enough times. When I was machining the front sight, I was cutting the whole front face of it and taking 50,000ths off. It cut fine one way because that was a conventional cut. Then I just dialed the other 50 thou and went back the other way. Well, that was too much material to be taking off with a climb cut, and my end mill caught and sucked out of the collet a little bit and dinged up my finish. I'm hoping I can refinish these nicks in black and they will be a little less obvious. The second thing is that I must not have had my y-axis adequately locked when I was milling the right side slot. It must have moved a little bit. You can see that the hole I started the slot with bulges out past the side of the slot just a little bit at the front. Now, I get a few comments on these porting videos asking if people can send me their slide and barrel. I don't want to do that, and this is one of the main reasons. I screw up the finish a little or end up with a mistake in a slide cut. It's my gun. I don't care that much. If this were a customer gun, this quality of work would be completely unacceptable. I would be buying them a new slide and starting over, and I don't want to deal with that liability. To my surprise, this barrel was stainless steel, so I couldn't refinish it with cold blue, which is just fine. I have the chemicals in a process figured out to blacken stainless steel. That's also how I refinished these slide slots, and you can see I refinished the little nick in the finish there, and I think it's actually more obvious now that it's black. So maybe that wasn't the right thing to do, whatever. The front sight is just carbon steel, so I refinished it with cold blue, and now it's soaking in a little bit of oil. If you're curious about the chemicals or process I use to blacken different grades of stainless steel, I've made a video on that, and I'll link to it in the description. This clip is from the recoil spring tuning video I did a while back. I tested both the 13 and 15 pound recoil springs after porting and went with a 13 pound spring, so that's what I will use for my angle comparison. The ammo was Blazer Brass 115 grain 9mm. The muzzle flip angle was about 12 degrees before porting. Now, after the porting, this ammo was Winchester 115 grain. I know, not the exact same ammo, but pretty comparable loadings. I still think it illustrates the reduction in muzzle flip, and I will give a range of muzzle flip reduction percentages that I believe will account for that difference in the ammo and my measurement uncertainty. With the 13 pound spring, I measured a muzzle flip angle of about 9.7 degrees. Let's call my measurement uncertainty about plus or minus half a degree. Based on that, the muzzle flip reduction was between 11 and 26%. I did test the 15 pound recoil spring, but the ejection was pretty marginal. The empties were just dribbling out 1 or 2 feet away. The ejection distance with the 13 pound spring was much better, around that 4 to 6 feet I like to see. This gun doesn't really feel well balanced. It's got a long, heavy slide out front with a lightweight polymer grip in the back. The flashlight I run added even more weight to the front, then adding the red dot to the slide helped with the balance a little, but put more reciprocating mass up high. It always felt like it bobbled and pitched around under recoil. It had pretty bad muzzle dive with the 15 pound spring, and of course the increased mass of the long slide, but before porting, the 15 pound spring felt much better to me than the 13 pound spring. After the porting, both springs feel similar. With both, the recoil's mellower, there's less muzzle flip. I chose the 13 pound spring due to a better ejection pattern, but I also have less muzzle dip as the lighter spring doesn't slam the slide forward as hard into battery. Of course, the porting didn't shave much weight off the slide, but it sure changed how the weight and balance of the pistol presents itself under recoil. I always check the zero on my dot after a porting job. This is at 15 yards from bag support, with the exception of the flyer. That's a decent group. You can see my point of impact shifted right a couple inches and maybe a little low. About 8 clicks on my windage and 2 clicks on my elevation got me back on target. I would consider myself a casual shooter. I'm no expert nor a seasoned competitor. I hope my explanation of how the recoil field changed made sense. The gist of it is that the gun shoots flatter, has less recoil, and I had to reduce my recoil spring weight to get an ejection pattern I was happy with. I'm pleased with this porting job. The carbon fouling on the slide covered up the dings from my machining mistake. I really like the look of this new front sight profile. It looks way less goofy than it did. I also noticed that because now gas is coming through the ports, I am getting less gas and fouling on my optic lens through this loaded chamber indicator channel that was left open after the optic milling. As always, this was a really fun project for me. I hope this video was entertaining and or informative for you. Thanks so much for watching.